Welcome to the Stars Aligned Dramas and Dreams podcast, where the infinite sky meets the starry world of dramas. We're guides to the cosmos, from heart-stopping queer love stories to straight dramas of unexpected love.
And every unforgettable moment in between that make us swoon, laugh, and cry. And, of course, we'll sprinkle in a little stardust along the way.
I'm Nyxi.
I'm Cyrus.
Each week, we'll explore the stellar journey of love, identity, and connection, one drama and one dream at a time.
So, gather your stardust, find your spot under the stars, and let's dive in.
This week, we're casting our gaze upon vampires and media, letting the stars guide us through the exciting and vast world it holds.
To start our exploration, we need to understand one thing. What are vampires and why do they matter?
Vampires. It's not like that's been in our media since we were kids and like there isn't multiple shows on it or anything like that.
I was going to go with that depends on what canon or what lore or what mythology you follow. Because there's so many different versions and types of vampires depending on like where you pick and choose your little aspects from.
And that's really seen throughout probably some of the ones we're going to list in this episode.
Absolutely.
But I do agree. I was kind of joking more so.
But it wasn't a joke.
Kind of wasn't. I will say, just for the fun of it, the actual definition of vampire is... Actually, it has multiple, but the main one is a corpse supposed in European folks to leave its grave at night to drink the blood of the living by biting their necks with long, pointed canine teeth. And I will say, that is probably the most prominent thing that's probably consistent most of the time throughout every vampire series, and that is that blood is somewhere involved.
Yeah.
At some point, somehow, and in some form. I think that's it. That's all I got.
I mean, there isn't much we could add here.
There isn't. Go ahead. Your turn.
Since we now understand the very basics, let's break down the constellation of vampires in dramas, mapping out the stars that connect to reveal the deeper layers of meaning we're exploring.
To navigate this constellation, we'll be focusing on how our favorite examples, their rising prominence, and audience perception impact vampires in dramas.
We start our exploration with our favorite examples, where we'll examine the heart of these vampiric dramas and explore how they're essential to understanding them.
For once, I actually sat down before beginning of an episode that involved needing examples and actually made a list of ones I've seen and even some I've started. And it turns out I watched a lot of
Everyone clap
stuff.
For Nyxi for being prepared.
No, stop it. Put those hands down. Specifically Cyrus. I'm not talking about our audience. I hear that sarcasm. I saw it too. Look, I was like, why not? I actually really love this type of supernatural more so. I'm not gonna lie. I like more of the romantic side. I'm not crazy about the gory or anything like that, but I like stories where we take like supernatural or mythology kind of things and then we turn it into something in a story. And I'm just here for that. And vampires just happen to be one of the biggest ones.
I will say, this is not my particular cup of tea. As Nyxi was going through her list with me before we started recording this, I was like, I've seen like 2 of them, and started only one of them. And started additionally another one.
Actually, looking at my list right now, I'm like, yeah, you're right. It was 2 and started 1.
I know, I was counting.
Crazy.
But, that's okay. We all have our things, and this is just not mine.
I will say, I think, it's definitely not yours, but going into the actual examples right now, I will say probably the most familiar one, at least with any of our actual, like, BL fans, Kissable Lips.
Which is one that I've seen.
Which is kind of, at this point, considered one of the more earlier stages of KBLs. And then another one that I've seen was 1,000-Year-Old.
I've not seen that.
It had a little bit of a vampire presence.
Yeah. And like that one's been on my plan to watch. Since Nyxi watched it, because Nyxi was like, you should watch it. Because I was...
Shane!
Yeah.
Shane's in it.
I know.
Love that man. Hadn't seen him since My Engineer. I was so excited when that's literally why I watched it, and yes, I love the vampire side, but I literally watched it because I realized Shane was in it, and I was like, "I have to now. I have to." And so I watched it because of him.
And then recommended it to me only for me not to watch it.
It's okay. It's okay. It almost became this series, one of the series satellites.
Yeah. But we went with the more campy OMG vampire. Simply for the chaos, truly. And Frank.
Yeah. Another one on the VO strength, but I think technically will get mentioned a little bit more in the next section, is the revamp one
Mm-hmm.
that's coming out.
Yes.
Now, I'm not going to go into that one because that can be brought up more in the next section. But backing out of that, the one I know for a fact that you mentioned, that you said I've started multiple times, but didn't finish, was the series Blood. That it's been a while, so I don't know if anyone will recognize that series at this point. But Blood was another one, and I love that series. It's a Korean drama. I want to state that in case.
I genuinely feel bad that I didn't finish it because, like, we've sat down and started it. I can remember like 3 times, and like it simply was each time we started it, like we didn't finish it while we were together, and like I didn't have either the time or the access to finish it on my own, so I just never finished it.
I mean, that's fair. I will say I love Blood, even though it's been a good while. There could have been things I don't remember, some faults in it, but from my memory alone, put it that way. I loved the concept of it because we made a comment back in like what are vampires and why do they matter? Section about like what is a vampire and how there's so many different versions given in like in these stories. They're not really the same they're not the same other than probably the blood aspect for the most part.
Yeah.
And blood definitely is one of them because to this day it's one of my so far favorite depictions of vampires because I'm obsessed with the fact that instead of vampires just existing and just like being a thing, which I have nothing against that perfectly fine. But what I loved about Blood is Blood was presented as more so that the vampire, like possibility of vampires, is that they weren't necessarily vampires, but instead were infectees from a, I don't remember what it was, but kind of like a virus kind of situation that
Something
turned them
like that,
into what
yeah.
they were. In fact, the male lead was actually a second generation of this because he was born from two infectees. He wasn't a direct one, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
But I was obsessed with that aspect because, like I said, I liked how there was like, oh, there is a like established reason behind the existence of them.
Mhm.
And even though this is a story where like they're not hugely known, like it's not a big thing because it was kind of more of like a secret case thing that happened a long time ago and was trying to kept under the radar. In fact, I think all of the infectees were supposed to have been killed off, if I remember. I don't remember the details. It's been a while. Like literally, I think I watched Blood not long after it aired, so it's definitely been a while because it's one of my first dramas I think I ever watched. So it's been a while for sure. But I remember really enjoying that concept of it being an infection, more so. And more specifically for the male lead, it was more, I want to assume, more of an inherited infection that they were trying to find a cure to. I think he was trying to find a cure because, like, well, he was a doctor, so that was definitely one of the reasons he was trying to find a cure. But nonetheless, I will say, because I think this was the one where I don't think people could become vampires, even if it was an infection kind of thing. Maybe they could. Because I want to say the virus, I think the main source of the virus should have already been wiped out. I don't remember. It's been so freaking long since I've seen Blood. Part of me wants to rewatch it, but part of me, I also know I won't. So it was good. I think about it quite a bit, and it is actually where I think about a little unfortunate that you haven't finished it,
I actually I don't think I ever made it truly really far into it.
which is sad.
I think like 5, 6 episodes max each time.
That's so sad. But I don't know. I enjoyed that one. Another one, kind of We've done Thai, we've done Korean. Another one, there's a Chinese one. I mean, there's several, but one of the ones I watched, which I think was actually pretty darn popular. It even got a season 2, but we had a cast change on season 2, I think entirely, to be honest with you, because I know Mike Angelo, if you know where I'm going with this, was season 2 for My Amazing Boyfriend, which was a kind of vampire style series. I think it was definitely vampire, because the female, I want to say, it's been so long. I feel like this is also around the same age as Blood. Also was awoken by the blood of the female lead, because he's coughing. I think she got in a car accident or something, and his coughing at the same time. The two cars that held it hit, and it fell out, and she also fell out somehow. I don't remember the detail, and somehow that led into her blood getting into his coffin, and it woke him up. I don't remember. It's a kind of a wild concept when you think about it.
Did I start this one too?
You could have. It was one of my favorites back when I first started watching dramas.
Because that actually, as soon as you started like talking that, it sparked something very deep. And I do think I watched the first like episode, 2 episodes of this, and again never finished it.
So do you think you remember the coffin thing I was talking about?
Yeah.
It's crazy that if that's the case that I even remember it, because it's been that long. I remember Blood way more than I remember My Amazing Boyfriend, which is kind of interesting that I can't remember it more. We actually had a Korean actor. I forgot his name. It was... I really can't remember his name. But we had a Korean actor in the first season, and then turned around Mike Angelo, which actually is Thai.
Yeah.
So that's an interesting twist, to be honest with you. I'm just not making that connection. And the weird part about that connection is the only reason I even remember that Mike Angelo isn't really Chinese, or maybe he's half, I don't remember, is because he has a brother that I know. I've seen him in Thai series. I can't remember his brother's name, though, on top of my head. And that's why I was like, wait a minute. We went from Korean to Thai, but ironically, both are Chinese series.
Yeah.
I actually love it when we have some other nationalities in
I
other
agree,
series.
yeah.
Like I've seen occasionally some Korean artists, some Korean actors and actresses in Chinese series, as well as some Thai ones. I forgot his name, but there was a Thai actor in Blowing in the Wind. There was also the Cinderella Chef in another series, same actor that had either seen or started, was also Thai, which is fascinating because he's also a father. I know that. This is the specific one I'm thinking of.
You see, what you went there, and my mind immediately went Peach of Time.
Oh, Peach of Time? I was still focusing heavily on the Chinese side of having crossovers. But yeah, I was going to break into that at one point and be like, yeah, we've had crossovers as well within Korean series, Thai series. Sometimes it's both. I'll never forget the series, the one Chinese-Korean series I watched around the time I got into dramas. And I remember that entire series was done where the actress was a Korean and the actor was Chinese, and they both spoke their native language throughout the entire show. So while they were communicating with each other, she was always speaking Korean and he was always speaking Chinese. And I'm not gonna lie, I just thought the concept was cool.
I do remember you talking about that now. It does.
Peach of Time does that though.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of insane concept to a certain degree. Because that means that if they say you speak one of the languages, you have to read subtitles of the rest of the series on anything the other character said.
Yep.
Unless you knew both, or like me, didn't know either, just read subtitles the whole time.
Yeah.
But that's irrelevant in this situation. I don't know. It was just a fascinating concept. And you know what? We're really off topic. But back into this vampire series. There's so many told in different forms. Like a little bit more traditional, I would say, with the vampire aspect. And I really would be curious to know how people even know this one. But there's Vampire Flower that had the Ajax members in it.
Which is wild because that's not the first time we've brought this up.
It's not. but I don't really know anyone that has probably
Yeah.
listened to all of our podcast episodes and would have found the other one. So I'm still curious. Does anyone know that series? It's been so long. It was so underrated when it first came out anyways.
You're
That
like,
group has disbanded
yeah.
years ago. I don't know if anyone even knows what we're talking about.
That is the other one that I've seen in the list if you haven't caught on. But like, oh, Vampire Flower is so good. It's one of the shows like I know like we've both like have rewatched that, and that it means more saying that Nyxi has rewatched it because Nyxi doesn't rewatch shit. But like, we both have seen that several times. I still haven't gone back and rewatched it recently, as I said I was going to, but very fun. I don't remember a lot about it, but very good. I do remember that.
Yeah, but like I said, it was a little bit more traditional on the
Mm-hmm.
vampire aspect. To a certain degree. I think there were some kind of sort of creative aspects to it, but it really aligned heavier in the side of what we're used to for the vampire stuff.
Yeah.
And then I have more. I even have ones that apparently I've never finished. I have one, oh my god, I'm not even going to attempt the name, and I don't know the translated name of it. There's a Thai series that I tried to watch a long time ago, around the time I actually first got into Thai series. If I remember correctly, it was just about 3 hours long per episode.
That seems right.
Don't remember how many episodes there were, but there were a lot. And at some point, I was like, can't do this. I was also still in school, so I was like, I could not. I can watch long stuff. But for some reason, duration is so much harder than episode count. I don't know what it is, but a super long duration is harder to deal with, harder to manage.
I 100% agree.
I mean, maybe if it had been broken down, probably could have gone a lot further.
Mm-hmm.
With that being said, we shift orbits and find ourselves at the rising prominence. This new path takes us deeper into vampiric dramas, uncovering hidden connections and unfolding new layers.
It is wild that, like, kind of out of the blue, like, more vampire based, specifically BL, Thai BL, specific Thai BL specifically, that keep popping up.
Mm-hmm.
We were talking before off podcast, me and Nyxi, about there's recently finished My Golden Blood. Vamp is upcoming at some point, and like even like going back to like last year, the other series satellite we're doing for like OMG Vampire, and like for them like not
Or
too
1,000-year-old.
1,000-year-old as well, yeah. Forget about that one because I haven't seen it, but like having like, them like not really show up and then having 3 years is an insane jump.
Yeah. Because, like, while 4 might not be a high number, and there's probably more that
That we
we're not even remembering, to have shown up like that recently, yeah, that's still a huge amount considering how many genres and how many sub things there are.
Mm-hmm. Could this be like the next big thing, the next common trope? We'll just have to see.
Probably not, to be honest. Vampires
Probably
is just
not,
a very
yeah.
cliche thing. I think we just see it every once in a while. It just makes a little bit of a boom every once in a while and just shows up.
Honestly, I can see like of like very specific times, like vampires just like kind of blip in and blip out.
Oh, for sure.
Because like we had like Twilight boom, where like Twilight's were vampires were like really popular, and then they fizzled out because like they became like really cliche, and then like it took forever before they start like popping back up occasionally in media, and I don't think like we'll ever get like that like vampire boom of like the 2012 I think is when Twilight became popular. I don't think we'll ever get that again because like it's ran its course, and like we'll only get like kind of pocket blips of like vampires like being popular and fading out in media. So that's
You
always an
say
interesting
that?
trend. Mm-hmm.
You say that, but that's kind of how trends work.
Yeah.
Like another trend that I can think of, and it could have happened more times than I know of, but in terms of, my outside knowledge, dragons is a pretty interesting one to if you think about in its coming in and out of trends, because I want to say it was pretty big a long time ago, back with the Aragon series, relatively. And then it faded out after the movie, because I don't know why the movie didn't do. I don't think the movie did too well, but like the novels were pretty big, and then faded out. And like, of course, we get dragons occasionally in kid stuff because that's just a cliche thing.
Yeah.
But then it came back recently with like House of Dragons, or with like Iron Flame, which is a very popular. I don't know the name of the series. It's unfortunate. I need to read it because I actually really like dragon themed stuff.
Fourth Wing?
But that's real big, and I know how big it is because recently Onyx Storm was released, which is the third installment of that series.
Fourth Wing?
Insane. Fourth Wing, yeah, that was the main one.
Thank you.
I guess I was literally thinking of the second and third book. Are you coming for me?
I know, I said it all earlier and you just like kept going, and I was like, I know the title of the first one.
But sorry, my bad. But like I said, like House of Dragons and was it Damsel or something, which had a dragon or two involved with it. I think it was just one actually, but I can't remember. I only seen pieces of the movie. Now I know that's more of a Western media thing, not so much in Eastern media. Actually, I take that back. It's not so much in Bloom's, but we still get it in like Chinese media for sure, because that's like one of their main mythical creatures we see all the time. But like that's like which I think sometimes actually with the Chinese ones it's a little more tricky, because sometimes we get what we would as Westerners thinks of dragons. I mean, I think it still falls under dragon per se, but they refer to, and it gets translated to as snake.
Yeah.
So like the Legend of the White Snake, very prominent of a series. Or
also Back from the Brink.
Yeah. There's a lot of dragons used in, especially in their fantasy ones. So you're not going to get away from those. So those don't really count in terms of like waves of stuff like I was referring to into trends.
I'm also very surprised you didn't bring up Merlin.
Oh my god! How could I have forgotten Merlin? You know, that's another thing that I feel like comes in and out every once in a while, and that has to be Camelot.
Yeah.
King Arthur and Merlin. I feel like sometimes that gets popular and blows up. Merlin's interesting because Merlin was big when it aired, fizzled out. When a specific platform decided to get rid of it, it blew up again.
Yeah.
Which I was here for because I loved it since when it was an airing series. Merlin is like the series for me.
Again, off topic, but...
Very. But like we were talking about trends and stuff.
Yeah.
And so like it could be the next boom, but I think it was already crazy enough that as it is that we even got, or we're supposed to get a total of 4, maybe more, just in the BL side.
Yeah. In one specific country.
Probably more in the others. Yeah. Oh yeah, one specific country. Yeah, true.
Finally, our third focus is audience perception. This is where we highlight its significance in understanding the deeper layers of vampirism and dramas. I do think that vampires are a very polarizing thing, because like some people really fuck with them, others do not. Personally, fall into the second category. Not necessarily my thing, just on a deep layer. I don't know. And like I know it simply boils down to the fact that don't bite me. I don't like teeth. Don't bite me. Like, stay the fuck away from me with your mouth.
That's a wild way to look at that, but I get it.
Like,
that's kind of funny.
I'm being so for real right now.
That's hilarious that's where you went. I was gonna say for me, it's more of a nostalgic kind of thing. I think I've always grown up on things that are a little bit more supernatural or fantasy based. And like one of my prominent movies, and I think I've tried to get you to watch it, but I think the problem is it's so freaking hard to find. And I only have it on a VHS. And that was The Little Vampire. which ironically got turned into animation a few years back. Never seen it. Definitely prefer the original one. It was such a cute series. Oh my god! Had you ever seen Stuart Little?
Mhm.
I forgot his name, but the little boy.
Yeah.
Not the mouse, of course, but the little boy. That's the same actor that plays the little kid in
Oh,
The Little
really?
Vampire.
That's
Not
cool.
the vampire, but the kid, the human kid. I'm sorry, it's been so long. I know the vampire's name because the little vampire's name was Rudolph. I don't know why, but his name was Rudolph, and I just happen to remember that. I ironically can't remember the little boy's name, but because it's been so long, and oh my god, I'd kill to rewatch that movie. It's so cute. Um, it's much more of a silly movie. But that's pure nostalgia for me because that I remember watching that as a kid. Like I said, it was a little VHS. I don't even think we have a thing to play that anymore. Like we still have the VHS, but we don't have a way to play it, and that's so unfortunate.
It truly is.
Dang. But yeah, for me, it's more of a nostalgic thing, and I just find it interesting. In like most cases, and like I've said, probably on almost every podcast, is I like seeing how things are adapted.
That's fair,
And
yeah.
something as simple as vampires being adapted in multiple ways. Oh, I'm so here for it. It's so intriguing.
I will say though, vampires personally, like again, don't really fuck with them. But I do enjoy them a lot more if they're just campy, like silly, goofy vampires. Because like at least that I can like be like, this is just ridiculous. If they try to get too serious with it, I'm like, no. Get your fangs away from me.
Why though?
I don't know.
Because you can watch. Apparently, you can watch other like supernatural and like fantasy like creatures and whatnot perfectly fine that I'm aware of. But for some reason, vampires, if they get too serious and too realistic, you're like, no.
I don't know. But like just in general, like just overarchingly, like I'm not necessarily a supernatural, like mythical creature, like fantasy creature person. Like romantasy is not my genre. Nyxi's literally shaking with excitement. What was
That's
that?
a weird way to phrase that. Because you're over here like, I'm not really a fan of that. And I'm more like, I am. I am. Me. Put me in, coach. Put me in.
I do.
Put me in. I love those type of series. I will pick a fantasy, and more specifically, I will say it depends on my mood. If it's going to be full fantasy or a magic realism, which is like things taking place in your favorite genres, what? A contemporary, where it's a more taking place usually in contemporary kind of style, but with magic elements.
I'm much more comfortable with magical realism than full-fledged fantasy.
But if you were having me choose contemporary, magic realism, or fantasy, I will 100% almost always watch the other two over contemporary, depending on the storyline.
Meanwhile, I'm over here just in my contemporary, just safe space.
I say that like I don't watch contemporary. I do.
Oh, absolutely. Nyxi does, yeah.
I got quite a long list of that. Also, that's because it's a prominent genre, but it's just very big. But to be honest, though, I can easily get distracted and watch more of a fantasy and a magic realism setting. Like all the stories I've even created for myself, like to write for fun, have either magic realism elements or I've heavily debated on it just being one that lures to the idea of magic, but not be that. If that makes sense.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Or just straight up fantasy. So like there's always some sort of play.
Meanwhile, I can think of one story that I've like kind of like put my toes into over the past several years that have any semblance of fantasy to them. And all of my others are contemporary.
Whoa. You say that, but you've had several concepts, like the blood one. Like the
That was
the
when
mask, the superhero.
those were in high school, bitch. Those were 5 years ago.
Just saying, they exist.
And I haven't touched them since.
I don't think I have a lot of contemporary themed
Honestly,
ones.
much to your dismay with my And the Staircase Was Purple.
I don't think I have a lot of contemporary
I
ones.
don't think you do either.
Like, you can't think of any?
No.
I mean, at most SMP.
Yeah, but that's only because we're doing it together.
That's a collaborative. We've broken everything down. Now it's time to put it all together. In this segment, we'll share our thoughts on the vampires as a full constellation and reflect on their total impact.
I think I've made my stance pretty clear. Especially in the last section.
Yeah, you did. You did.
I will occasionally watch them if they're campy and fun. I'm less likely to watch it if you know they're too serious about it. Like, not doing that.
Or if Nyxi drags you into watching it.
Honestly, yeah. That's how I end up in this 9 times out of 10.
That's honestly how you end up in most fantasies.
Honestly, it is. Now that I think
'Cause I
about it.
suggested it.
Now that I think about it.
You just aren't a fantasy gal.
I'm not. And it does have to do a lot with my aphantasia because, like, I got nothing going on visually up here in my little brain. I can't do it. Which makes it hard. It's easier in dramas compared to like novels because like I don't have to like try to figure out on my own what's going on. I can just see it. But like it still transfers because I'm like, okay, this isn't something that like I have a strong like nostalgic tie to because like I didn't gravitate towards fantasy as a child. So I don't know.
I did.
Do with that what you will. Don't know what that says about me, but it is what it is.
That's interesting. So we're like actually opposites.
Mm-hmm.
Prefer fantasy over. I don't like things getting a little too real. Well, unless it's fantasy, because like you can get real in fantasy in terms of like making it seem more believable. But like in terms of like getting too close to real life things, no, thank you. Occasionally, maybe, but no, thank you. I like my fantasy elements,
And I think that's fair.
and I will stick to those. I like my escapism, is what it is, honestly.
Hey, you can escape into the real world just in different shoes.
I don't want to see an everyday situation.
That's what I do.
If I'm escaping away, that's you, not me. No. Fantasy. Twinkle, twinkle.
Twinkle, twinkle. Jesus Christ.
It's not the first time I've used that.
I know. It's just every time you say it, it makes me giggle.
But yeah, I definitely the opposite for you. And as it comes to the vampire ones, apparently I've seen a lot. Maybe not a whole lot, but a lot for what there is out there, especially in the genres I like. You know, that could be in like the Asian dramas or specifically like the BLs. Or we don't really have a GL right now because there's not a lot of
First
those.
kill.
That'd be awesome. Oh my god! And I did watch that one because I love the fantasy aspect. I was so here for that series just because when I found out it was a hunter versus a vampire. Yes, I forgot about that.
So did I until this exact moment. Because I also have seen that
That's
on your recommendation.
Because I told you to watch it.
We watched.
It's also the only reason you watched it.
We watched a little bit of it together as well.
And then it's separate. But I can't believe I forgot about that. So there's a GO one. There's several BL ones. Some K-dramas. Some C-dramas. Oh! I've seen a Hong Kong one. I can't believe I forgot to add it. And a Japanese one. I did in this series.
I love how even when Nyxi's prepared, she's unprepared.
I can't believe that. I've seen a Japanese vampire one and a Hong Kong one. Oh my god, I've seen way more than I realized. I can't remember their names though. Do I remember them that well? No. But I don't know how well I remember them. But there was there was a Hong Kong one and a Japanese one that I completely forgot. Like you said, I came prepared and somehow was also unprepared again because I forgot. I've also seen ones from there because Love in Time was a vampire one who I forgot the actor's name, but I think I found the series through the actor because I want to see the actor plays in Taiwanese series that I had seen prior. But he was in this Hong Kong series and it was a vampire one, so I was like, yes, let's go. I think it was really short too. I don't believe it was a long series. It was more like a web series. And then another one I've seen, which was a Japanese series called I don't it has a Japanese name on my drama list, but its alternative name was Vampire Boy or something like that.
Very aptly named.
That one I have a vague memory of the storyline. If I remember correctly, it comes off for a minute there in the possibility of a student-teacher relationship, but it turns out the vampire, which is the student actually, if I remember correctly, had some sort of relation to the teacher. I don't remember. I want to say they knew each other when they were younger, if that makes sense, before he became a vampire. I don't remember the whole details on that one, but that one was kind of interesting. I don't remember. It's been so freaking long. Like, so long. I'm glad they were still listed, though. I was kind of worried for a minute there. Trying to find them and remember them. That they never made my drama list. Like, actually got added. But they were there. So that's good. Thank goodness. But that's wild. So
no surprise there. Honestly, if I could pull out 2 more out of my ass that I've seen, it'd be way more surprising.
You really let yourself loose in this podcast.
We did try, like,
in these past several episodes.
Like,
you have said some words.
Like, we started out like, oh, let's not curse that much, and it's devolved into this.
I know I cuss, but I feel like some of this is on you.
A lot sometimes. Of it is on me, which is wild because I don't curse all that often, just in regular conversation.
I feel like you're just really letting it go in this, and that's okay. That's okay. Express your words. Per se.
I do have a larger vocabulary that I just don't utilize here that I definitely could.
Interesting. But yeah, you're right.
The podcast is where I just, is my designated cursing hour.
Interestingly enough.
I don't know how we got here.
We're never sure how we got here. But I think that's it for what we need to say in this section after pointing that out. And just like that, the constellation is fully drawn. We thank you for joining us for this episode of Stars Align Dramas and Dreams podcast, where we meet amongst the stars that illuminate the love stories that light up our universe and connect us all.
If you've enjoyed this episode, don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe, and share your Stardust and thoughts with us. We'd love to hear your comments, favorite moments, or suggestions for what we should explore next.
You can connect with us in the comments or through our socials, as well as our email that are linked in the description. Let's keep the conversation going under the stars.
Until next time, keep dreaming, keep listening, and remember, love always shines brightest in the cosmos.
Bye. Bye.